The diplomatic vessel Olive Branch floated in deep space, its sleek hull reflecting distant starlight. Captain Song Taemin stood on the bridge, watching as the massive Talon ship approached. After years of preparation, humanity's first official contact with the Galactic Confederation was about to begin. "All systems normal, Captain," reported Officer Moon Ji-soo from her station. "The Talon vessel has extended their docking bridge." Taemin nodded. "Send our 12 representatives to the meeting chamber. Make sure all recording devices are active." Among the 12 diplomats was Ambassador Shin Do-hyun, a veteran of Earth's last war and now its most respected voice for peace. He straightened, his formal uniform as the airlock opened. "Remember," he told his fellow representatives, "we come in friendship, but we must show strength. Humanity has earned its place among the stars." The meeting chamber gleamed with otherworldly metals. The Talon delegates waited, tall beings with smooth blue skin and eyes that seemed to shift color. Their leader, identified as High Counselor, Primus, stepped forward. "Welcome, humans," the alien's voice came through the translation device. "We have observed your species for some time." Ambassador Shin bowed slightly. "We are honored to join the galactic community and hope to learn from your ancient wisdom." At first, the talks proceeded smoothly. The Talon asked about Earth's resources, military capabilities, and governance. Ambassador Shin answered carefully, emphasizing humanity's desire for peaceful exchange, while avoiding details that might reveal Earth's vulnerabilities. On the Luna monitoring station, Lieutenant Commander Kim Ji-won watched the live feed with intense focus. Something about the Talon body language bothered her, though she couldn't identify what. "Run a deeper analysis on their vocal patterns," she instructed her team. "Compare with our preliminary data." Back in the meeting chamber, High Counselor Primus raised a hand. "There is one matter we must address before proceeding." "Of course," Ambassador Shin responded. "You have not disclosed your military capabilities." "Fully," Primus stated. "This violates Confederation Protocol 7A." Ambassador Shin looked confused. "We received no information about such a protocol in your transmitted guidelines." The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. The Talon delegates exchanged glances. "Failure to acknowledge a violation compounds the offense," Primus said coldly. On Luna base, Kim Ji-won jumped from her seat. "Something's wrong! Alert Earth Command immediately!" But her warning came too late. On the screen, she watched in horror as the Talon pulled out weapons no one had detected. Ambassador Shin raised his hands. "There must be a misunderstanding." The weapon fired. A bright flash of energy struck Shin in the chest. As he fell, chaos erupted. The other human delegates reached for their emergency communicators, but the Talon were faster. One by one, the representatives fell. No mercy was shown. No questions were asked. Kim Ji-won watched, unable to look away yet desperate to unsee the massacre unfolding before her. Within 2 minutes, all 12 humans lay dead on the chamber floor. "We have witnessed a violation of Confederation law," Primus spoke directly to the camera. "Let this serve as Earth's first lesson." The transmission cut off. For 3 hours, Earth's leaders tried to re-establish contact. When the Talon finally responded, it was with a planet-wide broadcast that reached every screen on Earth. "People of Earth," Primus announced, "your representatives violated sacred protocols and paid the price for their disrespect. The Galactic Confederation now offers you a choice. Surrender your planet and accept our guidance, or face extinction. You have 7 Earth days to decide." In emergency meetings across the globe, nations that had once been enemies now found themselves united by a common threat. President Lee Hun-jin addressed the United Nations Security Council with grim determination. "The footage shows no violation occurred," she stated. "This was a planned execution meant to frighten us into submission." Admiral Park Dong-yun, head of Earth's Joint Defense Command, stood next to her. "If we surrender, we will likely face slavery or worse. The Talon clearly view us as inferior beings." On Luna base, Kim Ji-won spent hours analyzing the massacre footage. She noticed a detail others had missed. Just before the attack, One of the Talon had touched a specific pattern on their wrist device, a signal. The decision to kill our people was made before they even stepped into that room, she reported. This wasn't about any protocol violation. They meant to kill them from the start. As images of the murdered diplomats spread across the globe, public shock transformed into rage. These were not just representatives. They were heroes who had survived Earth's own conflicts only to die reaching out in peace. Admiral Park entered a code only he knew into a terminal deep beneath the Pentagon, a screen illuminated with the words, Protocol Prometheus. They think we'll surrender or die fighting, he said to the assembled military leaders. They don't understand humans at all. As Earth's 7-day deadline began counting down, humanity, prepared not for surrender but for a response that would echo across the stars. The Talon fleet positioned itself in Earth's orbit, massive ships hovering like storm clouds. Their weapons could destroy a city in seconds. From their command vessel, they watched and waited for humanity's surrender. The deadline was just 24 hours away. In a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Park Dong-hyun studied holographic battle simulations. Each one ended the same way. Earth defeated, humanity enslaved, or worse. The Talon technology was simply too advanced. Show me the simulation again, Park ordered, rubbing his tired eyes. His second-in-command, General Oh Minseo, shook her head. Sir, we've run it 50 times. The outcome doesn't change. Park stood up straight. Then we changed the rules. Across the globe, in an underground laboratory in Seoul, Dr. Yoon Mina worked without sleep. Her team had been studying a damaged Talon probe that had crashed in the Arctic Circle years ago. The world had never been told about it. The neural interface is the key, she said, connecting wires to a strange metal object. Their technology is built for their biology, not ours. Her assistant, Dr. Nam Junho, looked up from his screen. What are you saying? I'm saying, Dr. Yoon smiled for the first time in days, that human brains process information differently. Watch this. She placed her hand on the device and closed her eyes. The alien metal glowed, then shifted color in a pattern no one had seen before. Screens around the room filled with Talon data. How did you do that? Dr. Nam asked in amazement. Their systems are designed to block specific neural patterns, Talon patterns. They never planned for human minds to access their networks. In orbit, the Talon High Commander received reports from across Earth's solar system. Human activity appeared minimal. Their military bases were quiet. It seemed they were preparing for surrender. Primitive species always choose survival over dignity, the commander told his officers. Prepare the occupation protocols. Little did they know that beneath the surface of Mars, Major Choi Yun-ho led a small team through a narrow tunnel. They had secretly landed on the Red Planet days ago, approaching the small Talon outpost from below. Remember, Choi whispered to his 5 soldiers, we need their command codes intact. No damage to their central computer. One of his team, Sergeant Kwanhana, checked her weapon. It wasn't a regular gun. It was built based on Dr. Yoon's discoveries. 20 seconds until their sensor sweep passes, she reported, watching a small device on her wrist. When the moment came, they moved. Using the special neural disruptors Dr. Yoon had created, they entered the outpost. The Talon guards never saw them coming. Their defense systems, designed to detect energy weapons and explosives, couldn't register the human technology. Within 15 minutes, the outpost was secured without a single shot fired. The Talon personnel lay unconscious, their systems still, reporting normal operations to the fleet. Access point established, Major Choi reported through a secure channel. Downloading their command protocols now. Back on Earth, Admiral Park received the first batch of data. His eyes widened as he reviewed it. They've mapped the entire solar system, he said. But look at these gaps. General O studied the map. Why would they leave these areas unmarked? Because they can't see them, Park realized. Their sensors have blind spots, specific frequencies they can't detect. In her laboratory, Dr. Yoon made another breakthrough. She had connected a human brain directly to a Talon communication system. The test subject, a volunteer named Sergeant Kim Jin-hyuk, sat with his eyes closed, his mind navigating alien networks. "I can see their ship layouts," he said slowly. "Their patrol patterns, even their emergency protocols." Dr. Yoon turned to her team. The Talon evolved from predator species. Their brains developed to focus on movement and direct threats. They literally cannot process certain types of information that human brains can. While the Talon waited confidently for Earth's surrender, humanity prepared in ways the aliens couldn't detect or imagine. Factories that had been manufacturing cars now produced components for weapons based on Dr. Yoon's discoveries. Pilots trained on simulators that mimicked Talon ships, finding weaknesses the aliens didn't know existed. On the final night before the deadline, Admiral Park addressed the combined military forces of Earth from his command center. "Tomorrow, they expect us to kneel," he said, his voice reaching soldiers in hidden bases around the world. "Instead, we will show them that humanity does not go quietly. We may be outnumbered, we may be technologically behind, but we have something they don't expect. We can think in ways they cannot imagine." In space, the first of Earth's new ships moved into position, invisible to Talon sensors. They had been built in secret underwater facilities and launched at night through ocean trenches. Their hulls absorbed Talon scanning signals rather than reflecting them. As dawn broke over Earth's major cities, the Talon command ship broadcast its final message. "Your time has ended. What is your answer?" Admiral Park looked at the countdown clock as it reached 0. He pressed a button on his command console and replied, "Our answer is this. Operation Thunderstrike begins now." Across the solar system, humanity launched its EO counterattack. The Talon were about to learn that underestimating humans was the worst mistake they could have made. The first Talon ship exploded without warning. One moment it hovered above Earth, weapons ready to punish humanity for its defiance. The next moment it was engulfed in flames as smaller vessels appeared seemingly from nowhere. "Phantom ships working perfectly," reported Captain Im Dae-ho from the bridge of the EDS Defiant. His vessel, along with 50 others like it, had been hidden in Earth's orbital blind spots, cloaked by the technology Dr. Kang Ji-young had developed. The Talon response was immediate, but confused. Their sensors struggled to lock onto the human ships that moved through frequencies their systems couldn't properly detect. "Maintain attack pattern echo," ordered Commander Bae Woo-jin from his command center near Jupiter. "Do not engage directly. Strike and shift positions." The human strategy was not to defeat the powerful Talon fleet in direct combat. That would be suicide. Instead, they executed hit-and-run attacks, exploiting the neural interface advantage Dr. Yoon had discovered. Human pilots could see Talon ships even when Talon sensors couldn't find human vessels. High above Earth, the Talon commander raged at his crew. "How can primitive vessels evade our targeting systems? Find them!" But the human ships were already gone, jumping to new positions, striking from unexpected angles. The Talon, so accustomed to easy victories, had never developed tactics for an enemy they couldn't easily track. Meanwhile, deep in the asteroid belt, Dr. Han Sumi worked frantically in her research vessel. The ship rocked as distant explosions lit up space around them. "Hold steady," she told her nervous team. "We're close to a breakthrough." For weeks, Dr. Han had studied Talon biology samples recovered from their outpost on Mars. Now, she carefully mixed 2 compounds and watched as they reacted. "That's it," she whispered, staring at the results on her screen. "Copper. Their cellular structure breaks down when exposed to copper ions." She immediately sent her findings to Admiral Park. "It's not just a weakness," she explained through the secure channel. "It's potentially devastating to them. Their environmental suits and ship filtration systems are designed to remove many contaminants, but not copper. They've never encountered a species that uses it as we do." The battle for Jupiter's moons turned the tide. 3 Talon dreadnoughts approached Europa, expecting to destroy the human mining colony there. Instead, they found Commander Bae's main fleet waiting. "Now," Bae ordered, as the Talon ships moved into position. From the surface of Europa, hidden, launchers fired thousands of small projectiles, not explosive warheads but simple copper pellets. They peppered the Talon ships, penetrating their outer hulls through small gaps in their shields. Inside the alien vessels, the copper particles entered the air circulation systems. The effect on the Talon crew was immediate and horrifying. Their blue skin blistered and cracked. Many collapsed at their stations. The largest Talon battlecruiser, the Inevitable Conquest, listed to one side as its engines failed. Commander Bay watched from his bridge as the massive ship exploded in a silent flash of light. For the first time in centuries, the Talon retreated. On Earth, people gathered around screens to watch the battle footage. After days of preparing, for the worst, the sight of Talon ships fleeing gave them something they desperately needed: hope. "This isn't over," Admiral Park reminded his officers in their underground command center. "They'll be back with reinforcements. We need to press our advantage while we have it." The next phase of Operation Thunderstrike began immediately. Using the command codes stolen from the Mars outpost, human ships infiltrated Talon communication networks. False orders sent alien ships into traps. Confused by contradictory commands, several Talon vessels even fired on each other. In orbit around Saturn, Lieutenant Joe Hiram led a small team on the most daring mission yet. Using a captured Talon shuttle, they approached the enemy's mobile command station disguised as a damaged alien vessel, requesting emergency docking. "Remember," Joe told her team as they prepared to board, "we need their star charts and fleet deployment plans. 10 minutes in and out. No heroics." Their Talon environmental suits hid their human features. The copper weapons they carried were disguised as standard repair tools. They moved through the station quickly, downloading critical data while avoiding direct contact with the crew. When alarms finally sounded, they were already back in their shuttle, disconnecting from the docking port. "We've got everything," Joe reported as they accelerated away. "Complete navigational data for Talon territory, location of their homeworld, and something else: records of other species they've conquered." This last discovery proved crucial. Admiral Park immediately sent messages to the coordinates of worlds listed in the Talon database. "To all species oppressed by the Talon Confederation," the message began, "Earth stands against our common enemy. We have discovered their weaknesses. Join us." 3 days later, as Earth prepared for the expected Talon counterattack, the first responses arrived. Ships of unusual design appeared at the edge of the solar system, vessels belonging to species long subjugated by the Talon. "We heard your call," came the message from a captain who identified himself as a member of the Solari, a species conquered 50 years earlier. "We bring fighters and knowledge of Talon supply routes." More allies arrived each day. The Talon, who had ruled through fear and isolation of their subjects, had never faced a united resistance. When the reinforced Talon fleet finally returned to Earth a week later, they found not just human forces waiting for them, but the beginning of the greatest alliance the galaxy had ever seen. News of Earth's resistance spread across the stars faster than any ship could travel. The Talon had controlled all galactic communication networks for centuries, carefully filtering information between species. But now those networks carried whispers of the impossible. A newly discovered species had fought back and survived. In the Talon High Council chambers, Supreme Leader Vex faced angry questions from his subordinates. "How could primitives with barely functional spacecraft defeat our advanced fleet?" demanded one council member. Vex had no satisfying answer. The truth, that the Talon had never faced an enemy who thought differently than themselves, was too humiliating to admit. "The humans got lucky," he insisted. "We will crush them with our next assault." But the damage was already done. On a dozen worlds across the galaxy, subjugated species who had lived under Talon rule for generations began to question their masters. If humans could resist, perhaps they could too. On the mining world of Proxima, Beta, the reptilian Solari workers put down their tools and refused to enter the mines. When Talon overseers threatened punishment, the miners attacked them with simple tools. For the first time in 50 years, the Solari stood up for themselves. Similar uprisings occurred across Talon territory. The Confederation, which had maintained control through fear and superior technology, suddenly faced challenges on multiple fronts. Back in Earth's solar system, Admiral Park received reports of these rebellions with growing excitement. Each species, the Talon oppressed is a potential ally, he told his officers. We need to establish direct contact with their resistance leaders. Lieutenant Commander Kim Ji-won, who had witnessed the original massacre of Earth's diplomats, volunteered to lead this mission. She had spent weeks studying Talon communication patterns and could now mimic their signals perfectly. The Talon never expected their subjects to communicate with each other, she explained. Their control systems have basic security flaws we can exploit. From a hidden base on Titan, Saturn's largest moon, Kim sent carefully coded messages to resistance groups throughout the galaxy. You are not alone, the messages said. Earth stands with you. Together we can defeat our common enemy. Meanwhile, Captain Ryu Jinwoo prepared for the most dangerous mission yet. Intelligence gathered from the Solari allies revealed the location of a major Talon detention facility where political prisoners from various species were held. Many of these prisoners are former leaders who opposed Talon rule, Ryu told his volunteer team. If we can free them, we gain valuable allies and knowledge. His team included humans and members of 3 other species. They traveled in a captured Talon prison transport approaching the space station with fake identification codes. Prepare for inspection, came the station commander's voice over the comm system. Acknowledged, Ryu responded in perfect Talon speech patterns. We have new prisoners from the Rigel uprising. Once inside the station, the team moved quickly. Using the copper-based weapons that affected Talon biology, they neutralized the guards without raising alarms. Within an hour, they had reached the high security level where the most important prisoners were kept. In the first cell, they found Zoral, former president of the Solari Republic, imprisoned for 20 years. In others were leaders from species humans had never encountered before. The crystalline Lumen, the gaseous Vreen, and the hive mind collective. We thought we were alone in our resistance, Zoral said, as Ryu removed his restraints. The Talon told each species that they were the only ones who ever rebelled. They lied, Ryu replied. And now their lies are being exposed across the galaxy. As the freed prisoners boarded the transport ship, alarms finally sounded. The station's weapon systems activated, targeting the escaping vessel. We won't make it to the jump point, warned the pilot, a Solari named Thex. Just then, 3 ships appeared from behind a nearby moon. They opened fire on the station's weapon emplacements, creating a path for the transport to escape. Who are they? Ryu asked in surprise. Thex checked his scanner and laughed. Vreen fighters. They must have received your messages. The rescue team and freed prisoners returned to Earth's solar system, where Admiral Park and representatives from a growing number of species waited to greet them. What had begun as Earth's desperate fight for survival had evolved into something much larger, a galactic revolution. In a converted asteroid base, delegates from 17 different species gathered to form the Allied resistance. Some came in environmental suits, others appeared via hologram, but all shared the same goal: freedom from Talon rule. For too long, we each thought we fought alone, Admiral Park addressed the assembly. The Talon kept us divided, each species, unaware that others also suffered under their control, but that time is over. Zoral, the freed Solari leader, stepped forward. When we heard that humans had defied the Talon, many didn't believe it was possible. Now we stand together, and what was once impossible has become inevitable, the end of Talon domination. As the delegates formalized their alliance, reports arrived of new uprisings across Talon space. A transport network that had once carried resources to Talon worlds now moved weapons and fighters to resistance forces. Communication systems that had spread Talon propaganda now coordinated attacks against their military bases. In his council chamber, Supreme Leader Vex received the reports with growing dread. What had begun as a simple conquest of one primitive world had somehow sparked the greatest threat the Confederation had ever faced. The humans must be destroyed, he declared. Not just conquered, eliminated completely as an example to others. But even as he gave the order to gather the Confederation's full military might for an assault on Earth, Vex failed to understand the fundamental change that had occurred in the galaxy. Earth was no longer just a planet to be conquered. It had become a symbol, a beacon of hope for all who dreamed of freedom among the stars. The massive Talon mothership emerged from hyperspace near their homeworld, its hull scarred from battle. Inside, Supreme Leader Vex summoned his remaining commanders. The chamber, once filled with confident officers, now held only a handful of nervous survivors. "The rebellion spreads to 7 more systems," reported Commander Mal, her voice shaking. "Our forces on the outer planets have surrendered or joined the resistance." Vex slammed his fist on the table. "Impossible. We have ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years." But the evidence was undeniable. What had begun as humanity's desperate defense had transformed into a galactic revolution. The Allied resistance fleet now approached the Talon homeworld itself, a collection of ships from dozens of species led by Admiral Park's flagship Prometheus. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Park studied the tactical display with Lieutenant Commander Kim Ji-won at his side. Kim had come far since witnessing the massacre of Earth's diplomats. Now she served as the voice of the Alliance, broadcasting messages across all frequencies. For too long, the Talon have maintained their power through deception and fear. Her voice reached every corner of the Talon system. Today, we end their rule. The Allied fleet moved in formation, applying tactics developed through cooperation between species. Lumen crystal ships absorbed energy from Talon weapons and redirected it. Vreen gas vessels slipped through defense grids to disable shield generators. Human ships, still utilizing their phantom technology, struck from unexpected angles aboard. The Talon mothership, panic spread as systems failed one after another. "How are they coordinating so effectively?" Vex demanded. "They are inferior species." His question was answered when the main screen activated without command. Lieutenant Commander Kim's face appeared before the entire Talon High Council. "You believed your superiority was natural," she said calmly. "You never considered that different forms of intelligence might work together to create something greater than any one species alone." Kim then broadcast the evidence she had gathered since the day of the massacre. Records from the Talon's own archives showing centuries of manipulated first contacts, manufactured incidents, and fabricated violations used to justify conquests. "You murdered our diplomats without provocation," she continued, "just as you have done to countless other species before us. But your pattern of conquest ends today." The broadcast reached not just the Talon leadership, but every planet in the Confederation. Species that had remained loyal out of fear now saw the truth of their rulers' methods. On worlds throughout the galaxy, remaining Talon officials found themselves surrounded by those they had once controlled. No orders came from the Central Command. No reinforcements arrived to restore order. The Talon Confederation, built on deceit and maintained through isolation of its subject peoples, collapsed in a single day. On the Talon homeworld, Supreme Leader Vex and his council surrendered as Allied forces surrounded the capital city. They expected execution. Instead, they received justice. Captain Ryu Jinwoo led the security team that took Vex into custody. "You will stand trial," he informed the Talon leader. "Representatives from all the worlds you conquered will decide your fate." 3 days later, delegates from over 50 species gathered in the former Talon Council chamber. Some species had been under Talon rule for thousands of years. Others, like humanity, had barely encountered them before fighting for freedom. Together they began the difficult work of building a new galactic community. "We cannot simply replace one empire with another," Admiral Park addressed the assembly. "Each world must determine its own future." The negotiations lasted weeks. Some wanted revenge against the Talon. Others advocated for reconciliation. Lieutenant Commander Kim, now serving as Earth's chief diplomat, helped find middle ground. Justice without vengeance became her guiding principle. Accountability without destruction. The Talon, stripped of their military power, would retain their home world, but pay reparations to planets they had exploited. Their advanced technology would be shared among all species. Their history of conquest would be documented and preserved as a warning to future generations. On the final day of the conference, delegates signed the new Galactic Charter on a hilltop overlooking Earth's Pacific Ocean, the same location where a memorial stood for the 12 human diplomats whose deaths had started it all. Admiral Park stood with representatives from every allied species as they activated the charter beacon. Its signal would travel to the farthest reaches of known space, carrying the message of a new era. "We came to the stars seeking friendship," President Lee said in Earth's portion of the message. "We found conflict, but created solidarity. The galaxy will never again be ruled through fear." As ships from dozens of worlds hovered in Earth's sky, humans looked up with a new understanding of their place in the universe. They were no longer alone. They were part of something greater, a community of different beings united by shared values of freedom and cooperation. At the memorial site, Lieutenant Commander Kim placed her hand on the monument bearing the names of the murdered diplomats. "Your sacrifice was not in vain," she whispered. "Your mission for peace is finally complete." Above, the night sky filled with lights as ships departed for their home systems, carrying news of the charter and the story of how a supposedly primitive species had changed the course of galactic history forever. The stars now echoed not with the sound of war, but with promises of a new beginning, one where differences in biology and culture became strengths rather than reasons for conflict. And at the center of this new order stood Earth, no longer seeking merely to survive, but helping to build a future where all could thrive together.